This video is for lesson 10-4. We're looking at the practice problems 4, 5, 6, and 7. So number 4, we have the equation, the quantity of x minus 7 squared is equal to 9. And this is one that I like to use looking inside, although you can use one of the other methods for solving. I like to think about this as some number squared is equal to 9. So I know right now that there are two numbers that I could square to get 9. There is positive 3, because 3 squared is 9, and negative 3 squared also equals 9. And so that means that x minus 7 has to either equal positive 3 or negative 3. So I can take this and say, all right, well, if you wanted to, you could say, hey, the square root of each side. You could do that. Or I could just think of it as, I know that x minus 7 is going to have to equal negative 3, or x minus 7 has to equal positive 3 in order to make this true. And after we do that, it becomes pretty easy, right? We're going to just go ahead and add 7 to each side, and we get x is equal to 4. On the second one, we add 7 to each side, and we get x is equal to 10. You can check both of those by plugging it back into the original, right? So we would say here 10 minus 7 squared equals 9. And we'd also have 4 minus 7 squared equals 9. And I realize I wrote them underneath the opposite one there by mistake, sorry. But 10 minus 7 is 3. 3 squared is 9. That one's going to check out. 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is equal to 9. That one checks out. So we know the answers are correct. X equals 4 and x equals 10. The second one, right, maybe on this one we'll rewrite it. Let's just go ahead and distribute our 5 through. 5 times x gives us 5x. 5 times negative 1 would be a negative 5. And right now that equals 1. And now we'll just undo it by adding 5 to each side. So we're going to be left with 5x equals 6. And then we'll divide each side by 5. And x equals 6/5, or that'd be like 1 1/5, or some of you may even type it in the calculator. You might get x equals 1.2. All three of those values mean the same thing. And so if you wanted to check it, you could take it and you could plug it back in. Let's say 5 times 1.2 minus 1 equals 1. Well, 1.2 minus 1 is going to be 0.2. And 5 times 0.2 is going to be, well, 5 times 2 is 10. We move our decimal back 1, so 1.0, right? So 1 equals 1, we know that we are correct. The answer there would be 1.2. All right, so looking at the next one, I'm going to undo this one. I'm going to work backwards through it. Okay, so, right, you think about what should I do first? Remember, you can always look at the order of operations. If you knew what x was, right, and you were going to write out your order of operations, if I knew what x was, the first thing I would do is multiply by 2, right? And I do 2 times whatever x is, and then I would subtract 1, right? And then I would have done all of this. Then I would take the square root of that whole entire thing, and then I would multiply times 8, and then that would give me 4. So if we're going to undo it and work backwards through it, what we want to do first is undo the times 8 first. So let's just divide both sides by 8. So this 8 should cancel out this 8, and we're left right now with the square root of 2x minus 1 is going to equal 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. Now, to undo the square root, remember the inverse of square root is squaring, so we're going to square both sides. So this square should undo the square root, leaving us with just the 2x minus 1 left over. And then 1/2 times 1/2, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. We get 2x minus 1 equals 1/4. Now, some people might not like that because they now have the fraction in there, but you could always take it and say, hey, I want to get rid of the fractions. I'm going to multiply both sides times 4. If we do that, 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And then I have 4 times 1 is 4, divided by 4 gives me 1. That looks a little bit easier to work with, so we'll go ahead and finish solving. Let's add 4 to each side. We've got 8x is equal to 5, and then we're going to divide each side by 8, and we get x is equal to 5/8. And you notice there we didn't actually go through all the rest of the order of operations here, but sometimes if you switch methods in the middle there, you may not finish one of the methods. Okay, so checking this one here, right, we've got 8 times the square root of 2 times 5/8 minus 1, that's all into the square root, and that should equal 4. So this might be a good one to check in Desmos, right, because it's just a little bit longer and more complicated. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to take it, open up your calculator, and we'll clear out what we have in there. And so we're going to take it and we're going to plug in. We're going to say 8, and then we've got the square root, and inside the square root we had 2 times 5/8. And then what do we else have there? Minus 1. So this should end up equaling 4. And if you look right up there, that's what it equals. It equals 4. So we know that we're correct. So we end up with 4 equals 4. So there is our answer. All right, so we got one more to do. This is absolute value of 2x plus 3 is equal to 11. And again, remember this is one of the ones here where we can look at the absolute value of something equals 11. Well, we know the two values we could have in here, right? You could say the absolute value of negative 11 equals 11, and the absolute value of positive 11 equals 11. So if we need to have positive or negative 11 in here, then we know that 2x plus 3 has to equal positive or negative 11. And we'll just go ahead and create our equation that way. 2x plus 3 is equal to negative 11, and 2x plus 3 is equal to positive 11. And the rest of it we can just solve like we're used to solving. So we get 2x is equal to negative 14, divide by 2, x equals negative 7, and then do the same thing. We'll subtract 3, we've got 2x left over, that's going to equal 8, and we divide each side by 2, we'll get x is equal to 4. And for checking purposes, since we've checked everything else, let's go ahead and do this. 2 times negative 7 plus 3 in the absolute value bracket should equal 11. And 2 times 4 plus 3 should end up equaling 11 as well. So let's see. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14, plus 3 is negative 11, and we know the absolute value of negative 11 equals 11, so that checks out. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11, so the absolute value of 11 would give us 11, so that one also checks out. So our answers there, negative 7 and positive 4. All right, so if you have any additional questions, please make sure you mark them down and reach out to either me or go to Math Help. But this is lesson 10-4, and hopefully you're feeling pretty good about it. Thanks for watching.